Hello, this is Mike Fish, broker owner of Minnesota Real Estate and Management, and today we're going to briefly talk about closing costs on the buyer side. Very common question. We're basically going to go over some basics today. The bottom line is when you put in an offer, you should be asking your agent, can I get an estimated, there's several terms for it, but basically estimated closing cost sheet. And they absolutely should be going to who's ever doing the closing and saying, as far as we can tell, to the best of our abilities, this is what you're going to need to close. It's much better than finding out during the process to have an idea up front. The other reason why it's good to have some idea of those closing costs is then a buyer can better gauge whether they want to try to negotiate the seller paying some of those closing costs, which is completely legal, very common, really became almost industry standard, over the last several years. And over the last several years, we have seen these costs creep up and creep up and creep up pretty much like everything else. So it's good to kind of understand the basics going in, to be safe. We always tell people, well, you're looking probably 3.4 to 3.6, depending, and of course that varies based off the size of the house. So let's talk about it a little bit. Of course, number one, you have the loan origination fee. Normally, all these are the way it normally goes, right? Really 0.5 to 1%. So if the span of most of the people I work with are between 300,000 and a million. So if you're looking at a house at 300,000, you're looking at right around $3,000, obviously, if it's at the high end. A million, you might be looking at 10,000 for that loan origination fee. Super common fee involved in that. Don't forget the appraisal fee. For a $300,000 house, that's more like maybe 800. For $1 million house, you're more looking at probably around 1,500 for that, right? Of course, you got the little fees like the credit card fee, the title search, all the title work and the title insurance is so important. That's a question I get by a lot of people is should I ask for title insurance? I would sincerely always recommend it. When you're making a purchase this big, right? If someone comes back, the cousin, brother, sister, friend of the family comes back 5 years later saying that they own the property, etc., you want to be protected against anything that comes up as far as the property goes. So property insurance is, I think, very valuable. If you're buying a $300,000 house, $1,500 for property insurance title insurance is nothing. If you're buying $1 million house, might cost you $3,000-4,000, but you have it there for your peace of mind. So not only would I encourage you to do they're doing the title search, they're putting everything together. I would get title insurance. Again, we always have to say, I'm not an attorney. Talk to an attorney, get legal advice, but that would be my personal opinion. Of course, you got the settlement closing fees, around 1,000 to 1,500, smaller amounts. You got the recording fees, prepaid taxes, whether they're prepaid or they need to get paid, where those taxes fall. That's a consideration for both the buyer and the seller. Of course, homeowners insurance, which they want 12 months up front. You're looking at probably between 2,000 and 6,000 to 10,000. That's gone up and up and up depending on the property you're buying. Any prepaid interest, is going to need to be escrowed. And so you're looking at when you're setting up your escrow account, this is something that's why we have closing companies on my end, right? Like I could never keep all this straight. We normally use closing companies. I've got a local one that I've used for probably, 40, 50 transactions. I've used them almost exclusively the last several years. On that note, we give our clients the ability to choose their own closing company, but I will tell you, not all closing companies are equal in any way, shape, or form. It can get very complicated, and there's a reason why we as brokers tend to build a relationship with a trusted closing company to make sure everything goes smooth. I always say if it was that easy, I wouldn't have a job, right? Seldomly do you have a closing from start to finish without some bump in the road. And having a good closing company, a real estate attorney watching your back is a great consideration. I know I'm getting kind of off the road a little bit, but in a nutshell, if you're looking to buy a house, when you're looking at the $3,000 range compared to the to the $1 million range, the $1 million range is going to be a little bit less, can be less, under that 3% depending on all these factors. But we always say to be safe, figure around 3.5, 3.8%. And there are factors that vary from property to property and situation from situation. And that's why it's so important to try and get an estimated closing cost sheet, again, as soon as possible, so you know what you're getting into and you can prepare. So thank you. I hope this is helpful. Hopefully these we're doing more and more of these trainings, and hopefully this is helpful and valuable information to our buyers. Again, I'm Mike Fish from Minnesota Real Estate Management. Depending on where you're seeing this, please, like it, follow us, stay in touch. We would love to earn your trust and business. Thank you.